Welcome to the Gold Medal Girls podcast. I'm your host, Delaney Thibodeau. Gold Medal Girls is all about sharing the experiences of women in sports, including athletes, coaches, trainers, sports psychologists, executives, and tons more. We're here to promote these amazing people to build more and more support for women in sports. Be sure to listen as episodes will drop every other Tuesday, and I'll be interviewing a woman in athletics so we can learn more about their lives and amplify their voices. I hope you're as excited as I am to hear what they have to say. And without further ado, let's get into the episode.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Gold Medal Girls. We're now in the thick of the Winter Olympics in Milano Cortina and getting even closer to the start of the Paralympics, which are going to start on March 6th. In the last episode, I interviewed Kaylee Osborne, who's a professional hockey player, now Olympian, and she's playing for Team Canada in their gold medal match on Thursday against Team USA. So that's February 19th at 1 p.m. if you're on Eastern Time. Make sure to tune in for that game and be wishing Kaylee and all of Team Canada all the best vibes. I think my cat is running around. You might be able to hear that. In keeping up with the winter sport and Olympic Paralympic theme, today's episode features an interview with Erin Latimer, and she is a Canadian Paralympic Alpine skier. Erin competed in multiple world championships. She earned 6 medals on the World Cup stage and competed in both the 2014 Sochi Paralympics and the 2018 Paralympics in Pyeongchang. And before she was competing in parasport, Erin was competing in able-bodied skiing and transitioned to para-alpine in 2012. Following her international competitive successes, Erin has since retired, attended the University of Toronto, and took part in the RBC Olympians program. Talking with her is a lot of fun, and I think you're going to come away from listening to this and really wanting to go skiing. I know that that's how I felt 100%. And if you could be sure to follow and rate the podcast, that'd be really amazing. I'd appreciate it a lot, and I'll see you on the other side.
Well, Erin, thank you so much for coming to Gold Medal Girls podcast. So we're excited to talk to you today.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to talk to you.
I want to talk to you about skiing because you've been skiing for so long of your life. What was it about that sport that just really pulled you into it?
Yeah, so I think it was really came down to like a family sport. So for a bit of background, my grandfather was part of the founding of a ski club in Collingwood, Ontario, which is about 2.5 hours north of Toronto. So he built a cottage there. My dad and my aunt grew up skiing. And then my older sister, my cousins, all of that, they also grew up skiing. We got our own cottage with our cousins and all of that. So it was really like a lifestyle thing for our family. We would go away every weekend in the winter from Christmas until March break, every weekend and ski. So it was a family sport, which is what got me into it.
Oh, that's amazing. Did any of you ever have that rebellious, I'm not gonna ski, this is not my thing?
So my cousins did, but not me. My aunt always tells it, or maybe it's my dad that tells the story about my cousin. He was the oldest, and he didn't love it, and he was a little kid, and one time he was supposed to be going to ski lessons, and he just ran into the backyard, and my aunt was chasing him around the woods to try and get him to go to his lessons, and he was just not about it. I was a keener, and I think part of that is also because I was the youngest, so I had 2 older cousins and an older sister, and they were going out and they were skiing and they were doing their lessons, so I was keen to get out there as well, and then just loved skiing, and there was such a social component to it as well, so it was really great.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. What's your earliest memory that you have of skiing? Is it with them?
Yeah, no, not with. So I think, I have this photo, probably 2.5 years old, with my parents, and so even though I can't really remember that, that is kind of burned into my memory as the first memory. So but yeah, I don't know if you think about your childhood, there's some things where I'm did that happen? Was that a dream I had one time? I don't know, but all this to say is I first started to ski when I was 2.5 years old. I don't know how much of it was truly skiing, but I was in skis when I was 2.5 years old, so no memories at all, because it was just something I actually can't remember a time that I didn't ski, and nor can I imagine the future of never skiing again.
Yeah. Oh, that's wild that it's just always been a part of your life for as long as is possible to remember.
Yeah. And it's so and it's, I think skiing is a difficult sport in the sense of it's a lot more challenging to learn as an adult it's very counterintuitive. And again, it's just like, yeah, it's that how natural you are in even walking in ski boots and then
Yeah.
skiing. So of course you can learn as an adult, but definitely easier as a child. And then it's like, yeah, it's one of those things that you never lose.
Yeah. I've never been skiing, and it's because now I feel like I'm old enough at the point where like I have the fear
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
like fighting it almost. Like if I were to do it, like not just letting it kind of be as
totally.
natural as it should probably be.
Yeah, and that happened with my mom. So she started skiing when she met my dad, and she just like never became a proficient skier. So like, she can get down the hills. Like she doesn't actually ski anymore. But a huge part of it was she was an adult, and she did have that fear factor. I've had quite a few friends come up with me over the past couple of years and like learn to ski. So I've met many people who say like they've skied a couple times in their life, and like so when they come back as an adult, like it isn't completely new, but these people I'm talking about are like literally never a day in their life. So it's been very interesting to observe. And there was like, so I had like, my sample size this year was like 3 people, and two of them like picked it up so quickly and so well. And one of them didn't as much. And the two that did came from, well, I mean, I don't want to make it about gender, but two of them were guys and one of them was a woman. But there was something about also their background. And I think it's less about the gender and more about the experience in sport. So both the men had come from like sport backgrounds and were super confident, and like confident in their body, like good perception of their body, but also like just like no fear. They were just going for it. They weren't afraid to fall. They were like fall, get up, like go again and again and again.
Yeah.
And so and then the woman didn't have a background in sport and like was much less comfortable. And I think
Hmm.
with skiing too is like you kind of have to just go for it. Otherwise you're not getting through that like kind of like threshold that you can actually learn. If that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, totally. It's something that I think for myself, like I think I could probably learn it. I'm good at paddleboarding, which it's not obviously that's not the same thing, but it is
Yeah.
something where you're upright and there's momentum behind you. And
Yeah.
with paddleboarding, it's quite difficult if you're moving slowly in the water. It's easier the faster once you
Yeah.
kind of get going, it's way easier. Um, and I have a feeling skiing is probably a little bit like that, where if you're just fighting it the whole way down, that might actually be harder than just
Yeah.
letting yourself go, but maybe fall
Yeah.
and move on, you know?
Well, maybe you'll try it someday.
Yeah, maybe this winter we'll see.
Yeah.
And I know there's different disciplines within skiing.
Yeah.
Could you describe those for people who aren't familiar with the sport?
Yeah. Well, I think even in my experience, a lot of people like don't even know when I say it, I went to the Paralympics for Alpine skiing, like what that even is. Because there's so many different kinds of skiing. So when the type of skiing I went for was Alpine skiing, which is ski racing. Other types of skiing are like cross country skiing, also called Nordic skiing. There's like freestyle skiing where you see people doing like moguls, jumps, half pipe. Although I think half pipe's the dying sport, unfortunately. There's like big mountain skiing. There's like all kinds of skiing under the sun. But
Mhm.
for mine in particular, alpine skiing, ski racing, there are 5 different disciplines: slalom, giant slalom, super G, downhill, and super combined. And it's very hard to describe without using jargon. So it's hard to, yeah, explain it to people that don't know ski racing.
Mhm.
But basically, the difference between each of those disciplines that I listed um, is the distance between the gates. So you're skiing around gates. So basically, you start and there's this wand, and so you kick open the wand, and then there's a race course. And in slalom, the gates are very close together, and actually, you have a different size of skis for each of those disciplines. Slalom is like very quick, rhythmic turns. Each discipline the gates get farther and farther apart. The largest distance being for downhill,
Mhm.
and that's like you're going so fast, and that's, I would say, like a completely different sport than slalom even. So even within that world of alpine skiing, very different types within it.
Okay. Were there some of those that you were more drawn to than others, like within the Alpine world?
Yeah, so on the able-bodied circuit, usually you see, well, actually less so now, maybe, but you used to see athletes that usually specialize. So you're either a speed athlete or you're a tech athlete. Tech is the technical disciplines, which is slalom and giant slalom, and then speed is super G and downhill. I On the para alpine side, you don't specialize as often because it's a smaller circuit and your races are usually at the same venue. So like you're going to be kind of like doing a tour, so you might as well be able to compete in all of them because you're there anyway. Pros and cons to both, I think. But in my time, giant slalom and super G were definitely the ones that I enjoyed the most, and I would say I did the best in. Slalom was my least favorite discipline. But again, they all doing all of the different ones also make you a better skier for sure. But then there's the other side where like if you're always switching between disciplines, sometimes in a year you're never really hitting that breakthrough. Because before you're about to hit the breakthrough, oh, okay, well now we're gonna train for, this other discipline.
Right. And then, so we've kind of talked about like able-bodied and para. I think you told me it was around when you were 15, I think, that you made the switch into competing with the para alpine skiing. How was that transition for you when you decided to make that switch? And like, what thoughts do you remember having going into that choice?
Yeah, so for a bit of background is like kind of how the switch came about. So as I mentioned, I had started skiing when I was 2.5. I started ski racing when I was 6. And it's very like each year, you have your team who's usually peers that you've started skiing with since you were 6. And you have a few ski races throughout the year, and then like, next year you come back, you're all old or whatever, and you compete against different ski clubs. I didn't have any aspirations to do this at like any sort of high performance level. It was just one of many sports I did. I really liked it. And then when around 15, so I think I was in grade 10 or something like that, the coach from Para Alpine, Ontario was looking for, like she was kind of like trying to recruit. So she sent a call out to all the head coaches across the ski clubs, and she's like, hey, do you know any athletes with physical impairments? And as you can imagine, like the pool of ski racers are already quite small. So a pool of like people with a physical impairment, even smaller, and someone who didn't come up through like an adaptive program. Because I have a congenital limb difference like an arm amputee, like I didn't need adaptive equipment. Whereas if you're like starting to ski and you have a sit ski or you have like a leg amputation, you're probably going to need you will need adaptive equipment. And so you also probably need like a coach or an instructor who knows a little bit more about that. So you're probably going to come up through an adaptive program, where for my case, that wasn't the case. But again, very rare. Anyway, just so happened like she was like, hey, anybody know anyone? And my head coach was like, yeah, actually I do. So she had invited me this is the para alpine coach, invited me to the Ontario Winter Games, which were happening like maybe like that winter, so a couple months later. And I really didn't want to do it for a few reasons. I think one was my understanding and perception of para sport. I conflated para sport with adaptive sport. And so again, I was like, I grew up skiing since I was a child. I have all of these friends. I'm competing against all of these people. Why would I go and put myself in para alpine, which again, I perceived as adaptive, where I thought was going to be, around a bunch of people who don't know how to ski and are in para alpine because they can't ski with able-bodied people. And then of course, like at that time too, I feel that there was like less exposure to the Paralympics and even just perceptions of what it meant to have a disability. Anyway, thankfully my parents were like, just go to these, like this one set of races. And if you don't like it, you never have to go back. And I'm so glad that they kind of pushed me to do that. Because I wouldn't have done it on my own. Like I really, really did not want to do it. But also I think that's pretty fair. Like go once, if you don't like it, you don't have to go back. But I went and there was like a bunch of great people, and from there, and I had a great time, of course, as I feel like often happens like when you're a young person and you're like, oh, I don't want to do this. you go and you're like, wow, that was so awesome.
Yeah.
So I won't dive into a rabbit hole of like, I find now, I don't know, like some of the discourse we have, like people kind of really avoid the discomfort zone, but knowing what the difference between like safe and healthy discomfort and important discomfort and
Mhm.
push and traumatic discomfort.
Yeah.
And I think people are conflating the two, and we're losing a lot of opportunities for people to like grow and stretch in ways that are like so good for them.
Yeah.
But anyway, so went, and then from those races, I got invited to a prospect camp with the national team. Um, and, and that was in Banff, Alberta. And I thought it was like so cool, to like get to go out west, and there were a bunch of people from across Canada who were prospects, and they were all like really interesting people, and they were amazing skiers, and the coaches there were like great, and I learned what it was like, what being on the national team was like, and it was like sounded like the very same experience that the able-bodied circuit is, and I was like, wow, this sounds pretty great, and knowing that there was potential to go to the Paralympics in just a couple years. So that was a long-winded backstory of like kind of this shift between. So again, first quite hesitant, wasn't
Mhm.
even aware like Paralympics and skiing was a thing. And then upon like my exposure to it and like seeing the people in it and learning what it would be like, I was sold.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, did you feel like there were like kind of pros and cons that you were kind of weighing out in your head, especially because you were kind of saying like the aspirations were maybe a little bit different as far as competing at the high performance level in one group versus another, and then also being 15, which is quite a
Yeah.
sensitive age for
Yeah.
making big choices. And then maybe some stigma around what being a para athlete means. Like was it kind of a difficult process as you were going through it, or after that first games was it like, oh wait, no, this is where I want to be?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was difficult. I think when you're young, like you don't always like have all these like things. You're just like doing what's in front of you. And so it was kind of like, okay, like let me just see this through for the next while. And I didn't have to make any difficult decisions. Like I still got to ski with my friends at that point. It wasn't disruptive to school really. So like there wasn't really any decisions that I had to make at that point. Um, and then I would say like, well, it was actually nice in a way, and I think probably it gained over time, but being around people who had like similar backgrounds to me, where like I mean, all people came from various backgrounds, but like, growing up and being quite like involved with sport, and like coming to para sport as just another avenue to um pursue sport. So I think that was good. And then just being around like so many people with physical impairments of like all kinds, who were like, as I like felt myself like very confident, just kind of like adapted to the world and didn't look at themselves and feel like, oh no, I have a disability, I can't do this and I can't do that, and the world is so mean to me, because that wasn't ever my experience. So being I guess like with people who were like very empowered, maybe that's the right word, like empowered with their own lives, like I think that was quite a nice like benefit in those kind of like early stages.
Yeah. Yeah, and then once you kind of got into it, and you spent more time with the training for the Paralympics and everything, were there unexpected kind of benefits or challenges that you kind of went up against once you had made the decision to compete with Paralympics?
Mm, I don't think so. Like I it wasn't Gary. Like I found out I was going to my first Paralympics like very last minute, so like that was kind of like up in the air. And as I said, like before I was officially on the team, before my first Paralympics, like it wasn't. I wasn't having to like. I wasn't under the whole like training schedule, travel, all of that. So yeah, I don't think there's nothing really that comes to mind. Perhaps though, like is just like the gap between like a lot of my peers who were like already on the national team or prospects, they knew the expectation and like how to, and it's funny, it's the same in like the world of work, where like there is a lot of optics, okay, and like even just how you relate to like leadership, which is coaches. And so I found that in the time that I joined, I felt like I was having to like, there was like unwritten like expectations and rules that like were not clear to me. And it was,
Mm,
I kind of had to prove myself that I like had good intentions and was there for the right reasons.
okay.
Which I don't love when it comes to like these like, I guess like authority pieces, because I'm like, I don't know what more you want me to do. So I think that was the challenge of like, I hadn't been in a high performance team. I had been in like recreational sport. And so the expectations, which no one was telling me and guiding me, because again, I was just a kid, but these coaches, like they're also coaching people who are like in their 30s. They're not,
Mm-hmm.
their specialty isn't dealing with like teenagers. And so for a while, like that was a big gap for me, I think, because I was like, I feel like my heart is here. I'm trying, like I'm showing up, I'm wanting to be here. And I felt like it wasn't seen. And then when I was on the team, I got like a mentor, unofficially, just a teammate, and she like showed me the ropes. And I was like, oh, okay. I see not the rules, but I see how I can, showcase
Mm-hmm.
and deliver onto the expectations here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Kind of how to play the game in a way.
exactly. Yeah. And again, like the game isn't difficult. It's like, do your recovery, train, show up, and I was doing all those things, but I guess, there's refinement that's needed a little bit.
It's, when you're 15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
And so your first Paralympics was Sochi in 2014.
Yeah.
Quick turnaround from when you had started,
Yeah.
and then went to that. And you mentioned just now your mentor. What kind of things did they help you with? And like, was there anybody else who you feel like really helped you with your success with so quickly going into such an international competition?
Yeah. Well, I think obviously, as I had mentioned, like I was skiing forever. So, and ski racing forever. So it wasn't like the skiing part was new at all. The environment obviously was new and all of that, but I was really there for the learning process. And that was kind of like the real good benefit of the way our team at least was structured, was we had the benefit of having some spots for like up and coming next gen talent, because the more you can kind of learn from these experiences, the more you can apply. It's like an investment in the future. But yeah, I think I probably didn't really develop my relationship with that teammate until once I like after the Paralympics probably. But
Mm.
just yeah, some of the ways she helped me was just kind of like, and it's the same way as I think about like the workplace, is you have to learn the dynamics of your teammates, of the leadership, which are like the coaches, what exactly people are looking for. And again, it's not that you're being fake in how you're delivering, but exactly, how each person is thinking and what they're looking for and how you might interact with them,
Mhm.
or tap into, or how they might be able to support you. So I think she was really helpful about that. And then just, yeah, kind of giving me the lay of the land of like the different venues that we went to. She would like, just like how when we would go on like trips, we often had to do our own like cooking and things like that. So we would just, she was great at like, she really liked to cook. So I knew how to cook, but just like she would plan quite elaborate meals, and I would do my food prep with her, and like just like little things like that. She just like really showed me the ropes, which was really nice.
Yeah, and it's good to have someone to kind of help with that segue a little bit, especially when you are a teenager and
Totally.
everything is kind of a new world at that point
Yeah.
anyway, you
Yeah.
know?
And I would also say a lot of like our physios were really great, because again, like the coaches, and again, they change all the time, but a lot of they're really performance focused. And we would have like one physiotherapist that or two. And so they were kind of like changed throughout the years, but I always had very close relationships with them. And so they worked with our teams, but they were contracted out. So like they, had full-time jobs somewhere else. And they were really helpful because again, there was a lot of, I was a very male, I don't know if that dominated is the right word, but there's not a large female presence. So at the time that I joined the team, there was all the coaches were male.
Mhm.
There were only at a time only 2 to 4 female athletes, and
Oh
the
wow.
rest the 10, I don't know, I'm just making up numbers, somewhere along this ballpark, like 10, it's always fluctuated, were men. And the ski techs were men. So the physios were often female. So again, and they were like, maybe 10 to 15 years older than me, and just, again, could just relate a little bit more and give me that nurturing that I think I sought. So they were really helpful for all of that as well.
Yeah, that's good. And is skiing broadly kind of like that, do you think, where there's more men in it than women, just like in and out of competition? But
Yeah, I don't think like in competition, like I think it's no, like there's just as many like female athletes, I would say, as male athletes. Coaching still very heavily dominated, and I'm sure, I mean, you would know better than me. I think this is consistent across a lot of sports, a lot of male coaches. Although I will say, like, our head coach, or I don't know if her role was but program developer, whatever, was female. So it's not like there were like no females. But yeah, not a lot of women in coaching positions. You see, though, when you're younger, a lot of female coaches, a lot of female ski instructors, but as you rise the ranks, more male presence. And I would say in parasport, probably at least Alpine, and I'm again, probably goes across a lot of different sports, there would be more gender discrepancies. One is, again, as you already know, like the involvement in women in sport after a certain age drops off. Well, if you fold in a disability, there's already a lot of barriers for people to get involved with sport when they have a physical impairment, and then you fold in like hesitancy from a gender perspective, or someone coming into sport at a later age. Because with parasport, it's quite unique, because sometimes you might have someone who acquires a disability later in life, and now like they've just learned this sport. Again, very fewer, like, again, as like a lot of girls in sport at a young age drops off after. So if you've not been involved in that sport and you're coming in as an adult with a physical impairment, another barrier to entry for females.
Yeah, definitely. And resources probably as well for adults trying to get into it. And then when there is a need, if there's a need for adaptive equipment or things like that, then it's just, it adds on a lot of extra barriers, I'm sure. And so when we were training for the Paralympics, how did you feel did you feel any extra pressure knowing that this was like an international competition? How did you manage that? What were your strategies?
Yeah, I don't think I felt any additional pressure. Thankfully, I've always been pretty good at managing like performance. And I think part of that was like I was involved with so many different sports growing up. And so at the end of the day, it's literally just another race. And I think also the full impact of it didn't set in, because again, I was pretty new to parasport. I was 17. Like, I was really looking at it from like a beginner's mindset. So I'm sure there were elements that were like, nerve-wracking, but didn't feel particularly like overwhelming. The biggest difference too, though, I think, because I had done international competitions, I had done some World Cups before that, but the scale of the Paralympics are way larger. There was a huge like fan presence, so that was the biggest things, like coming to the finish and like you have like hundreds of fans there, like that was different. But I love that sort of thing, so it didn't make me nervous.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
I mean, and you've been skiing since you were 2. So, I mean, this is, it's just another hill.
Yeah.
And I want to talk for a second about training for skiing, just because, again, I've never done it, but when you're getting ready to, you're competing in different places. So I'm sure the courses, the environment is a little bit different. When you're doing a sport where you're moving so fast, how do you acquaint yourself with the environment? Like, do you have a visualization of it beforehand? Is it like a simulation kind of a thing? Is there like, just how do you do that?
Yeah, that's a good observation. So that's the interesting thing about skiing, is like you will never have anything that is completely comparable. So each hill is different, like individual hill. Each like landscape itself is different. Even within a hill, where you set your course could be different. Run to run could be different based on like if everyone's skiing it, now there's going to be ruts. when you go to different parts of the world, the snow is a different texture, which like truly does impact things. So that's like, it's very interesting because the time on snow is so crucial because it's not something you can simulate. Like you actually just have to be out there skiing. And that's where one of the challenges for, I would say, like Canadian and North American teams comes in, because in Europe, there's a ton of glaciers. Fewer now, unfortunately, because of the changing climate. But in any, and even just like access to skiing terrain. So like European teams, you can like drive 20 minutes and ski. You can ski throughout the summer often. North America, that's not the case. So anyway, that I digress. But as far as like kind of getting familiar, if you're doing a training, like if you're ski race, like training before you begin your day, you'll do like some warm-up runs. The course will be set. You'll inspect it usually like one time. And inspections basically like you slip through the course and you look at like you kind of study it. It's a course study. And so what you're looking for is like rhythm changes. So that's like the distance apart, how like the gates are set. You're looking for terrain changes. So is it like super steep in one section and you have to prepare for that? Sometimes there's like blind turns, so you don't know what gate's coming. So you want to know, you got to study that and get familiar. And then, you kind of like look for other pieces that might be important. So you kind of slip through it. You try and, consume as much information as you can. Then you do training, so you just kind of like keep repeating your runs. When it comes to a ski race, you get one inspection and then you got to do your race. Except when it comes to the speed events or downhill, they actually set the course and you have 2 training runs in days leading prior. So you do an inspection, you do a training run next day, you do an inspection, you do a training run. And the reason is for that one is it's such I don't even know how to describe it, but like, I guess it's dangerous. You're going really, really fast. And so to put people into a course and tell them to race it first time off the bat with the speeds that you get up to is extremely dangerous.
Right.
So you get training runs for downhill. And then aside from that, like, visualization is great. So like ideally, let's say it's a race day and you're doing like giant slalom, you're inspecting. Afterwards in your head, you're trying to think, like close your eyes and think about, the course as you memorized it. Or it's maybe you're focusing on key segments. So visualization is definitely an important thing. And then if you have something like, if you're doing your downhill, your coaches are usually doing video footage. So or sometimes they have POV cams. And so you're watching that video feedback so that come race day, you have it memorized.
Mm-hmm. That's so impressive. So from the sounds of it, not only do you have to be great at skiing and, observing the course and everything like that, but then you also just have to be ready you have to be adaptable is also part of being good at this sport, is just being able to just roll with whatever happens to come your way. That's insane.
Yeah. And that's like, I think ski racing is like such good practice for life. But it's a very technical sport, both like becoming a good skier, aside from like ski racing, very difficult. And then like, you add in the very like technical and tactical aspects of studying a course and executing it. And then beyond that, so many things outside of your control. The amount of times that like races are canceled for weather or delayed for weather. And so you just really have to like, be able to like, so if you're having a delay, like, okay, how do you turn down your energy so you're not in that, performance mode? And then you got to be able to turn it back on again and prepare. And so a lot of variability, you're traveling a lot. So I think it's been very helpful for life after sport because it's made me have to be so adaptable. And like, I think that's one thing that even when I was in sport, one of my strengths was just kind of like go with the flow. And I find in my personal life and in sport and in my professional life, I always, the moments that like adversity happens to everybody, those are kind of the moments that I shine. Cause like when it's ski racing, like someone else might get like super thrown off by the fact that like the race was canceled and like now it's today, or the race was delayed by like 20 minutes, and because they're so like mentally unflexible. But for me, I'm like, okay, I'm good to go. Like put me in.
Like, whenever. And you were saying also how, different places where you compete at, there's different environments that yield themselves to different skiing conditions. Did you have a favorite place or favorite places that you got excited about getting to ski at?
Not like, I think like there were a lot of really great places, as you can imagine, and all of them had like different reasons that I liked them for. One of the, I think like most fun trips, because you often repeat some destinations. So I always loved when we would do St. Moritz around Christmas time, and it's just so cool to be like, I don't know if you know St. Moritz, but like it's like this fancy Swiss town and ski resort. So like it's just a very cool, and especially around Christmas, like great place to be. And then the skiing itself there, super sunny. You're like really up high, like really nice rolling terrain. And they call it like the snow there was often like hero snow is what they call it, because it makes you feel like a hero. Again, like different ski conditions. Like, so there's like, yeah, I love. So anyway, so that was a good one. I always liked, we did a lot of camps out of Panorama, which is interior BC. So I always enjoyed being there because it was a very comfortable setup. We had condos. You each got your own, well, actually, I shouldn't say I got my own bedroom. Didn't get my own bedroom, but like you have a kitchen and a fridge and a living room. And so it's just like a very comfortable experience. You're familiar with the landscape, like all of this. So, even like there was niceness in the mundane as well sometimes.
Yeah. Kind of, it feels more like it's like maybe integrated into like your just your life,
Yeah, exactly. This sense of feeling of like home. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm sure they do alpine skiing, but I was in Innsbruck in Austria last summer, and got to see the ski jumping set up there. That was super cool.
Well, yeah.
And I'm sure skiing there would probably be amazing. In the summer there wasn't snow on the mountains when we were there because it was like July, but I would imagine that in the wintertime, that's probably a really amazing place as well. Any of the European Alp destinations are so nice. Okay, and so then we'll move forward into kind of 2018 when you competed at the Pyeongchang Paralympics. And you finished top 10 in almost everything that you did. What was that feeling like? And did you feel like there was kind of a shift in your mindset going into 2018 compared to 2014?
Yeah, so I think like 2014 like really gave me a taste of the Paralympics and what it, and it bought me in. And I would say like after 2014, I made the choice to commit to and dedicate to training and competing with the national team. Because as I said, like up until then, there wasn't really like any sort of trade-off or decision that needed to be made. But having that experience, I was like, okay, like I wonder what it would be like if I really just focused on this and trained for 4 years and then competed. And so that's when like I had to defer university, and I did make I made the national team at that point. So I became like, I was on the full circuit. I was on like a World Cup circuit. And so that was like really my full time. We spent our summers in Whistler in the gym, and then traveled like 11 out of 12 months of the year to ski. So it'd be like 3 weeks on, 1 week home, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks home, perhaps. So just like the level, and I was also like getting older, right? And learning, there's an aspect of like learning how to learn. And so that was really, there's like a whole different level of like investment, in those 4 years for me, that led up to the 2018 Paralympics. So I think I grew and developed so much, and also had put so much more into it. So it was very meaningful. And I had also like, it's funny because like I thought you never realize how naive you were. And so like in 2018, I was like, wow, I can't believe I did this 4 years ago. I was so clueless. But it was 4 years ago. I didn't even know I was clueless. Thank goodness. So yeah, it was a really incredible experience. It was very, like, I felt so well prepared. And I also knew like that was going to be it for me. I was going to be retiring. So I was like, okay, let me just lay it all out here. And also going into it, you have a pretty good sense of like, who is going to be on the podium. And I had 6 World Cup podiums. So it wasn't like it was an impossible thing, but just based on like the field and all of that, I wasn't like, I am going to get a medal, which relieves some pressure because you're like, hey, let me just not think about the outcome, do my very best. And like, that's all I can do. And I competed, I think, in 5 events. So you kind of have to have this mindset where like after one event, okay, done and dusted. Like you can't think about it too much, and you're right on to the next thing. And I competed throughout that whole window up until like the last day. So you're not really having any like reflective moments necessarily. But it also specifically, and I think in that prior year to retirement, I started doing a lot of like more like work, like positive psychology type work, which included just sort of like savoring moments and really taking stock of like, where I was and what I was doing. So I'm quite grateful for that because I was able to really enjoy the experience. And like, those two things can exist. You can compete and like really be dialed in and focused. But in those moments outside of that, you can also like take a moment and appreciate where you are and recognize like how cool and special that is.
Yeah, absolutely. And knowing kind of that you were going to be retiring, like that probably helped. Having those positive psychology tools kind of in your back pocket probably were really helpful with what is usually a stressful time for people making that transition. So
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious, as a spectator of the Olympics and Paralympics, it always feels like such a long time, the 4 years in between events. Does it feel like that as an athlete as well, or does the 4 years fly?
Oh my gosh, it feels like forever. Each season feels like forever. It's a bit like after a couple of years, it feels like Groundhog Day because you're often going to the same places and like you don't have, at least in like this my sport when I was around, like you're not able to have anything else in your life because what can you do when you're traveling all the time? You can't go to school, you can't have a job, you don't really have friends. Like, so you're just, and then when you're skiing, you're there on a trip, you're there to ski, you're there to like do your dry land, your recovery, sleep, repeat. So there's not a lot of like enrichment. And so it does feel like the days and the weeks can be very, very long.
Yeah.
And it did feel like forever. But again, like each year you're doing a ton of competitions and like you're doing World Cups, World Champs, all that. But the 4 years, feel like they take forever. But it's funny because now I'm outside of sport and it feels like I'm like, oh, whoa, another Olympic Paralympic year. Oh, whoa, another Olympic Paralympic year. Like when you're outside of sport, to me, like it feels like they're happening all the time. And that is also like what informed my decision for retirement because I was like, I want to end it on like, the peak of like events, which is Paralympics. So I saw it in 4 year cycles. So I was like, okay, I can retire now or I can retire in 4 years, which was like such a long way down the road. And I just didn't think that I could mentally like commit to that and give it my all and push through all the mundaneness and the challenges and still feel like so excited and motivated and hopeful and not feel like I was like making all these sacrifices because it really is like your framing. And I also wanted to retire on my own terms, not be pushed out of injury or whatever. And also at the time I thought didn't want to be behind in my life after sport.
Yeah, I mean, not to be all academic about things, but like, athletes who retire on purpose tend to have a much better time, like when it is on your own terms, when it's your choice, you've got a plan for afterwards. Those are the people that have much stronger success with leaving sport and adjusting. Did it feel like a lot of freedom for you when you kind of were out of sport and then going to university?
Oh yeah, it was crazy. Even to this day, sometimes I think back, I'm like, oh my gosh. I always make the joke, like if I had known what retirement was like, I would have retired sooner. But yeah, it was to go from first of all, I was a kid, and then I was training. So to go into a phase of your life where like it's actually not that deep. Whereas when you're an athlete, you get the sense it feels like everything matters. So like how much water you drink in a day, what you eat, how much you sleep, like how your gym session went, if you did a gym session, like all of this, like there's a million things where like it feels like everything matters, and like it doesn't in the grand scheme of things. But as soon as you're out, it was this sense of like, oh wow, like I don't have all of these things weighing on me. That being said, it took me such a long, I think it was probably like a sense of control. Like I still did control a lot in my life, and I would say I didn't have true freedom mentally until probably the pandemic or a couple years after. So it took me quite a long time to truly release everything. But at the time it was like, oh wow, you mean I can do whatever I want? That's crazy.
Yeah, whoa. My time is mine.
I make all my decisions. Cool.
Yeah, definitely. And then how was university? Did you enjoy it? Because you went to U of T.
Yeah, I went to U of T. So I had been able to do one semester, I think in 2015, because we had like a bit of like a lull in the season. They're like, yeah, sure, like you can go to school. I was like, perfect. My personal plan was like, I'll do this semester in person, and then I'll just like go back in the summers and like chip away at things. But at the time, like the team wasn't receptive to that, and they were like, no, we want everybody in Whistler, like, and I didn't want to do the online thing, so I was like, okay, I guess I'll just defer. So I was returning, thankfully had a semester under my belt, because it was really intimidating to return to school. I think even like a lot of people, you know, there's intimidation to go to university right out of high school still. Like that's also scary.
Yeah.
Especially like U of T, everyone's like, oh my gosh, U of T is so hard. So here I am being like, oh my gosh, I haven't been to school in so many years. I thought I was going to be like old. I retired when I was 21. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be so much older than everybody here. Obviously not the case. So I had a lot of, I was nervous, but I was also very excited because again, it felt like there were all these things I wanted to do. Like I wanted to go to university. I wanted to have a community. I wanted to have friends. And now I could finally do it. So there was a lot of excitement. And then I was also found it was very helpful for retirement to take all of that goal orientation and structure and now put it into something else that was also very similar. That was great because if you're, you know, you go out and I think that's one of the reasons a lot of people struggle with retirement is like you get everything planned out and like every day having some sort of like, you know, sense of accomplishment to like nothing. So I had a great experience. The first 3 years, I think, were in person, and then my last bit was during COVID, so I finished online. I think it was a different experience than like typical university because like I didn't have a desire to like go live on campus and do all this. So a lot of my friends were actually like outside of U of T, people that I had known like through mutual friends or prior to university. Went to school for environmental studies, which like I found like so fascinating. And then had a couple like on-campus jobs again, just to try. I like working, I like learning, I like doing these things. So again, to just try and like get experience in different areas. And then also to try and build towards, because basically like during sport, I had worked in the summers again to try and meet people and to try and like build skills, but it's very limited what kind of work you can do because you're training all the day. So that was when I was living in Whistler. So to feel like I had a more like on-campus jobs were pretty good. And then actually in 2019, I started through the RBC Olympian program. So I was at university, but for 10 hours a week, I was working with RBC, which was great. So anyway, had a great experience at university. At the beginning, I did all my readings. I was super keen, all that. And then I think towards the end, I was like, I knew how to do it a little bit more strategically because I was also balancing a lot more. But I was definitely excited and ready to be done because I'm like, I'm so tired of all these papers. studying. But yeah, I'm sure I'll go. I shouldn't say I'm sure. Maybe I'll go back to school at some point in my future. But not a 4-year degree for sure.
That's fair. There's,
Yeah.
do what you want. You've got the freedom now to do,
Yes.
what you want. So, and I'm biased, but the sports studies at U of T are great. So, and then let's talk about the RBC Olympian program a little bit
Yeah.
more. What was that? What did that look like?
Yeah, so it's a great program. I'm biased and I'm not biased at the same time. So it comes up every 2 years, and it's for Olympic and Paralympic athletes, competing or retired. The contracts are 2 years, and they have two different streams. There's one stream which is very much like let's call it appearance based. So you're giving keynotes, you're going to like internal events or community activations with RBC. And then there's an in-office stream. And there's only maybe when I was doing it, perhaps let's say like 8 to 12 athletes who get an in-office placement, which is 10 hours a week. And then there's also that sort of additional piece where you're also doing like the speaking engagements, all of that. So I did the in-office one, and it was the perfect time for me because I was retired and centralized, right? So they actually do accommodate traveling athletes, but again, I think it would have been very difficult for me to do. So the RBC Olympian program for me, I was at university, and then I had this 10 hours a week. So my placement was with a regional marketing and citizenship team. And to me, and like to anyone who is in this position that can access the program, it's like, it's so good because I feel like I was able to make up on lost time. Think about how even this day, just like it's hard to get a corporate job and corporate experience, even once you've like graduated from university, like sometimes even have a master, all this. But the fact that I wasn't even done university and I could essentially I felt like fast chat expedite corporate experience that I felt like I had missed out on when I was competing in sport was like incredible. There was a huge learning curve for me, because again, and this is what sometimes is the challenge of being in sport, is like you're not going through these work streams and experiences that other people in the working world are. Mm-hmm. And I find a big part of corporate is like learning, because I'm the type, I'm very well in the school system and the sports system, because tell me what to do and I'll do it. Like, just what are the instructions? Yeah, I'll study, I'll put in the work, I'll ask questions. But I needed a lot of, I look for that direction.
Sure.
In the corporate world, I think, depends on the job. But no one's going to be giving you the direction. There's sort of an expectation that you're able to, find the direction and create the direction mm-hmm. yourself sometimes. And mm-hmm. also even this, what I found the challenge too, and still try and navigate, is your personal way that you move, like how you move as an individual, but how you fall into line of like the unwritten rules, and sort of like, norms and all of this. So, just like email etiquette and reviews and approvals, where like my whole life, especially in sport, you have to be confident in who you are, and you're representing you, and you go off and you do your stuff, and it makes sense. But then when you're in a corporate setting, it's like, oh wait, I got to send you all this stuff. I have to think about, who gets to email this person, like, oh. And one of the beauties too of having this work stream was like, I also did a lot of speaking engagements, so I got a lot of exposure across the bank, which is so helpful. So it's like very organic networking. Mm-hmm. But I basically looked and I was like, oh wow, there's a corporate sustainability team. Cool. Got a coffee chat with, because again, had a great like manager who was like, hey, this is how you should start thinking about your next steps. Identify like some areas and like learn about them. So had a coffee chat with the senior director of the corporate sustainability team, because that's like, again, what my academic background was in. Just was like, wanted to learn about his team and some of the rules, some of the backgrounds, not because I was looking for a job, but I was like just kind of shaping what my future might hold if I decided to pursue sustainability. And serendipitous, again, part of this, like COVID times. And also, I think sustainability was a lot more new and like less popular than it is now. But at the end of after the call, a day or two later, he was like, "Hey, by the way, we happen to have this contract role open. Are you interested? If so, like I'll connect you with the hiring manager to interview." And so that was like really set in stone the rest of my career, even to this date, because I had that interview, moved into like a 6-month contract for a parental leave in sustainability. The person didn't come back from parental leave. I got offered the job full time. And then all of my like career moves since then have stemmed from that one role. And again, came from getting to be in the RBC Olympian program.
Wow, it's amazing how many opportunities can come from things that, I mean, not that you wouldn't expect opportunities to come from that, but like just seeing all the different pathways that your life can kind of take, you know.
Totally. Yeah. And especially like when that one decision was put in front of me, do you want to go to the Para Ontario Winter Games? And I said, no, no. My parents were like, come on, try it. If that one thing hadn't happened, none of this would have happened.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
It's so frustrating when parents just, they do know sometimes, you
They
know?
do. Yeah. They do.
So I want to reflect a little bit on your time competing and now being, you know, kind of a step removed from it. What are the biggest areas where you think there's opportunities for sport and maybe para sport specifically to grow a little bit more?
For sport,
Mhm.
grow. I think, and para sport, I think the same goes for both, is like recreational sport. Like, I think we don't always have to think about it from a performance lens. Because there's so many benefits to participating in sport. So many. And often, and I especially see it now, people from a young age, like I speak to colleagues or just like other people with kids, and like their kids are like 5 years old and they're doing like skating 5 times a week, or like, you know, and then these parents are also faced with a decision. They're like, hey, well, my kid loves to, like, I'll use a skating example, skate. But like, we want this to be fun for her, but like all of her peers are like in these, like getting like one-on-one skating coach and a this and a that. And so where does the future lie for my daughter if I'm not pushing her down that as well? Because she's not going to have, like, be able to skate with her friends if she's not doing X,
All
Y,
of those
Z.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. So all this to say is like everyone's really looking at it from a performance, well, maybe not everyone, a lot of performance focus. Yes, younger and younger, I think, performance focus. So I think we need more recreational sport programs that, like, and I think the opportunity also to specialize later. Because again, there's obviously an exciting element about competition. I don't want to be, if I'm a kid, I don't want to be competing in soccer if like all of the competent players are in like the rep or aspiring rep stream. You know, I want to have some people who are also of like my level who aren't trying to go to the Olympics. Because unfortunately, I think like one of the downstream effects, if you think about all these kids, they're going to reach a certain age and they're like, I actually don't like this sport, or like it's so much pressure and I'm quitting.
Yep.
And then there's another stream of them, which like they're doing all the things and they don't make the team. And now what? What's your relationship with sport like? Now you're done. You hate sport, probably. You probably only ever had one sport. Anyway, long-winded. So more recreational sport, less sport, less performance focused. I think those are really huge.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. And I mean, for the reasons you said, and then also, I mean, kids are getting injured way worse, way younger. I remember reading about, it was a doctor who was talking about the number of ACL reconstructions they're doing on like 10-year-olds. And it's like, you're 10. Your ACL, you should not be able to rupture your ACL. Nothing you're doing should be able to do that, you know? But this, I think it is like these downstream effects of early childhood sport specification that are really, I get sometimes where parents are coming from with it, but I don't think it's the right way to go. I think
Totally.
sports should be fun.
agree. And then again, I think we struggle in this world to like have like recognize like nuances and that two things can exist at once. Like, you know, I think, yeah, I had a unique situation, but like I literally grew up doing a bunch of sports for fun. And then I came to a point where, hey, it just so happened like I could pursue it at a high performance level. And I decided to do so at a later age. And I had so many skills from all of my other sports and had still, again, the base of what I needed. So, you know, it's not like from the day your child's born, you have to decide, you know, are they going to be on a path to try and go get a scholarship or go to the Olympics or Paralympics? Like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to sign them up for sport at the same time you're registering for a preschool. Like it can be,
Exactly.
those can be separate. I also want to ask you, what do you think that people should be doing as far as increasing awareness and accessibility for parasport opportunities, especially for youth?
Yeah. So I think there's like a lot of really good organizations. I don't know about like across the country, across the world, definitely not, because there still is, I mean, access to sports, not great, even in general, but there's a lot of places that having a physical impairment, there is still a stigma or even just like not accessible. It's not an accessible world. But in Ontario for sure, and I'm sure Canada across, like there's so many great accessibility, adaptive and accessible sport programs. So like I know with Parasport Ontario, like they have like all of this equipment. So like if you are trying to learn a sport and you need adaptive equipment, you can use that equipment. There's a group that is based out of my ski club called Track 3. Similar case, it's an adaptive program. It's free. It's for people with cognitive and physical impairments, and you can learn to ski. And again, all of the equipment is funded. They do a ton of fundraising. So like the building is accessible. They do busing. Like, so there's so many programs that exist. Mm-hmm. But then I think there's like the gap is like for kids like me who, you know, I didn't need those programs, nor were they quite appealing for me. So I just needed your run of the mill like sport programs. And so I had those. So I'm quite lucky. So I think and again, this probably goes back to the other answer, which is like more recreational sport programs. So just having more things that aren't like super high elite competition. So like there is room for people with like physical differences to participate as well, and also compete. But I think this is also the challenge of like the broad range of like physical impairments and even cognitive that I myself even forget about sometimes. But like even Paralympic sport, like there's many people who, as people would say, are too disabled for parasport. But I wouldn't say that there's a solution though, because as soon as you start trying to make this sport extremely accessible to everyone, now all of the other folks who like have less mitigating impairments, it's not fun for them. And not just fun, but like it's not competitive, or it's impacting their ability to perform in some way. So it's very challenging, right? Because you want avenues that everyone can access sport. But it's that thing of like, not everyone is going to do high performance sport, but can we have enough programming where like, you know, the spectrum of impairments that you have, there is something for you out there. I think that is possible. And I think probably people who have physical impairments, like they're exposed to it, like, you know, like you go to your rehab hospital or your like occupational therapist or like whatever programming you go to. And they're very well versed in all of the programs that you could participate in, because those like programs, you know, they know who to go to.
Right.
So I think that's good. And then, yeah, I think as a society, people are getting better about like physical impairments. So there's like, I think reducing stigmas as far as like what it means to have a physical impairment and what you're capable of.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I mean, you know, as again, just someone who watches sports, you know, I do think it does seem like there's been more representation and inclusion of the Paralympic Games, just even in the televised events, which I think is great as well to increase awareness.
Totally. Yeah. I agree. And I think that goes a really long way. In addition to that, there's like a lot more like sponsorships, social media exposure, all of this.
Mhm.
And the key here too is that the headline of the story isn't about the person's disability. Like they're being presented as an athlete, right? And I think that's really important too, because then it just, it is one further step from, the headline being like about the disability.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So just last couple questions that I ask everybody, because I love people's answers to these. I'm curious to see what yours will be. Growing up, who were your role models in sport? And what would you say to them now if you had the opportunity to meet them?
Not a role model person in the celebrity type style. My role models, I guess, probably growing up were my older sister and my cousins. Yeah, I talk to them all the time. I don't have anything to say. Now they look at me and I'm the role model for sport.
That's amazing. That's a fun flip.
Yeah.
If you knew that you could be successful at it, is there a new sport you'd want to try?
Oh, I actually love trying new sports as like an adult because it's such a cool and novel experience.
Yeah.
Give me some inspiration. What are some
Yeah, so I mean, I think we could probably start a soccer team based on the number of people who I've interviewed on this podcast who have said soccer.
I played soccer growing up. I did a lot of sports growing up, so it's hard for me to pick one that like I haven't tried before.
You've got sailing. You've got
I sailed.
Okay.
Okay, maybe like equestrian. Because it sounds like it's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah.
So I've done horseback riding, but like not equestrian. So I think that one would be like a pretty interesting sport to be good at.
Nice. Would you want to do the kind of equestrian with the jumping and the kind of more ski-like elements to it?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it like Olympic, Paralympic sports.
Okay.
So like, yeah, that would be it.
Okay, yeah, that does sound like a lot of fun. I always like when we go places for conferences and things, I've yet to actually make it happen, but I'm always trying to find a way to like do horseback riding in some of these like more scenic countries.
Yes.
One of these days it's gonna happen. But
yeah. Well, now because I run, like I've run before, obviously, but now because I'm running so much, I would love to just be like an amazing, fast, long distance runner.
Okay. Did you do the full marathon recently? Did you do the one in May or did you do?
I did the one in October. That was my first. And then actually I also did an ultra marathon in March. Yeah. It was, yeah, that was good.
Where was it? Was it in Toronto or?
No, it was in Cape Town. So I was there for a wedding.
Right. Yes, we talked about this.
Yeah, so that was 56. So very different sport from skiing, which is like done in a minute max.
Yeah.
This was like 6 hours and 50 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, just a touch different, but no snow involved. What would you describe as being your gold medal moment? So that's like a moment or an achievement that stands out to you. It could be in sport, could be out of sport, but just that that you're always going to carry with you.
Mm-hmm. I think just my experience at the Paralympics in 2018, like it was just like so formative and so special because I kind of had this backwards look and a forwards look of like backwards of like all the work that went into it and like how special and cool it is to represent your country, and the forward look knowing like I want to remember every moment of all of these aspects of it. So that was definitely it. And just feeling like I had made my coaches and my family and everybody proud and myself proud as well. So that was it. And then I want to say like 2019, I don't know, 1 year I got inducted into the Toronto Sports Hall of Honor. And so that was that kind of like moment of like, wow, cool. And like hearing my bio, like hearing everything, I was like, wow, I did that. And like walking up,
she's great.
Nice. Yeah, that was pretty cool. So maybe that was the moment.
Those are both incredible moments. Yeah. Both great to have and remember. What hopes do you have and what changes do you want to see for the future of women's sport?
I think, I mean, I haven't done research on it, but whatever changes need to be made so that women are able to stay in sport or girls are able to stay in sport longer. Like, you know, and I think a lot of that comes down to like, it doesn't have to be that you're going to the Paralympics or the Olympics. Like, how can we keep women in sport at whatever level they need? Yeah, I would love to see that.
Yeah. Is there a message that you would want to share with girls in sport?
Yes. So in my experience, I found that I was able to transition out of sport really well. Obviously, it wasn't without challenges because I had some kind of like areas of interest outside of sport. And so, especially now looking back and speaking to other athletes, both those in sport and retired, just having other touchstones in your life is so key. So they don't have to be too time consuming, but just feeling like there's something for you that you're that is important or that you're developing outside of sport, so that you're not in sport because it is the only thing in your life and you're going to be lost without it, because that is able to allow you to keep a really good perspective and have just kind of those bounds and checks to keep you well.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that's a really helpful. That's a helpful message for anybody to just, have diversify your activities maybe a bit.
Totally.
Yeah. And then the very last thing, where could people go to kind of stay in touch with you or learn more about your story and what you're up to?
Yeah, probably my Instagram. So I have two. I have one that's like a personal and one that's like my ski account. So I would say the ski account, I don't update it so often, but I like kind of update it enough as far as what's happening with me. And the handle for that is at Erin Latimer _ski. And I'm sure you can have the details and wherever you put the details.
Yep, I'll write it out. Amazing. Well, Erin, thank you so much for all of this. I appreciate all of the time that you've had for this. Super great getting to chat with you. This is super fun.
Thanks. I had a lot of fun as well, and looking forward to hearing this and all of the other podcasts that you're putting together.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Erin, for being part of the Gold Medal Girls. You can find her on Instagram at Erin Latimer _ski, which is also written out in the description. And make sure that you're supporting the Paralympics this year. Again, they start on March 6th. Thank you to Josh Halliday for making the Gold Medal Girls music. And as always, thank you for listening to the podcast. Please rate and review the Gold Medal Girls wherever you watch or listen, and give us a follow on social media at goldmedalgirlspod on Instagram or on TikTok at Gold Medal Girls. You can visit goldmedalgirls.com for more about the podcast, or email goldmedalgirlspod@gmail.com if you're a woman in sports and you'd like to be featured in an interview. I'll see you next time. Have a great week. Bye.